What's up guys, welcome back to another video. So today we'll be covering a brand new what if. And that what if is what if Cooler raised Goku. This is what if where you can cross over the old canon with the new canon and still somewhat make it work. But before we actually get into the what if, I just want to say, can we get me to 13k by the end of the year? I would really appreciate it. We're less than 200 away. If you guys just share this to a friend, we can get there. Anyways, on to the video. At the beginning of Cooler's revenge, we see that Cooler's men discover Goku's pod, escaping the destruction of Planet Vegeta. Cooler's men begin to make plans to shoot down Goku's pod. However, Cooler tells them not to shoot him down because who knows, maybe someday this Saiyan could be Frieza's downfall. So he just lets Goku go to Earth. Let's say that in this timeline, Cooler decides to intercept the pod. So when they get the pod into Cooler's ship, Door opens up the pod and grabs Kakarot by his tail. Salza asks Lord Cooler why does he want to save the Saiyan child. Cooler replies by saying that this Saiyan child will be the downfall of Frieza, and he wants to show his brother what happens when you don't finish a job. Naze then tells everybody that the pod's destination was a small planet called Earth. Cooler thinks for a moment before telling the squad that once the Saiyan child is of age, they will train him and send him to Earth. They will send him to Earth as a testing ground to see what he's really capable of. Naze would also get the information from the pod that this child is called Kakarot. Although technically it probably wouldn't be in there, they're gonna need a name to call him by, and I don't think that just calling him Saiyan the entire time would be that good. From here, we can skip forward about 5 years later. Cooler finally decides to send Goku to Earth. Cooler tells the Saiyan child that he has 1 month to prove whether he's worthy to keep around or not. Kakarot is told by Salza and Naze not to fail the mission, as this will make Cooler very unhappy. Door reminds the young Saiyan child how to properly snap a neck before he's loaded into a pod and shot towards Earth. The Cooler Force decides to hang out in Earth's atmosphere to watch over Goku, who ends up crash landing in a little place called Ginger Town. When the pod opens up, Kakarot starts doing what he's been taught to do for the past few years, and that's to kill. Since Kakarot is kinda overpowered, at least when it comes to Earth power levels, he comes unopposed for quite a while, as no one is strong enough to face off against him. Earth's military tries and fails. Even the Red Ribbon, who isn't that strong, but they still try, and they fail. He would eventually run into the likes of Master Roshi and Mercenary Tao. Unfortunately, neither of these fights go in the favor of the humans, as Mercenary Tao gets his neck snapped while Roshi just barely escapes with his life. A month after Kakarot arrived on Earth, Cooler feels like Kakarot has done a just barely passable job and goes down to get him. When they meet up again, Cooler compliments Kakarot on how many people he's killed. Maybe he's not as useless as he originally thought. After this, I feel like Cooler would do something like Cell did, where he gets on TV and proclaims that this planet now belongs to the Cooler Force. He then proceeds to blow up the entire city to prove that he indeed is serious. Cooler does send down a couple of soldiers to make sure that this planet stays his. However, Earth isn't really worth much, so he won't be paying too much attention to it. They then leave Earth. Side note, the only reason that Kami doesn't come down to take out Goku is because he'd be terrified of Cooler's power. At this point, Kami's only really used to the Earth power levels. You know, sensing something like Frieza would probably terrify him. From here, Cooler sends Kakarot to other planets that he thinks the Saiyan could handle. And after each successful mission, Cooler would make sure to compliment Kakarot. Cooler knows that if he can get Kakarot to be very loyal to him, he won't turn out like the monkeys on Planet Vegeta, where those Saiyans would have eventually rebelled against his father and his brother. Making Kakarot really loyal will benefit him in the long run. Because he does grow up around the armored squadron, he does pick up a few things from them. He picks up Door's cruel yet confident personality. From Naze, he learns that rip-off Thundershock surprise move. From Salza, he becomes smarter and learns that energy blade thing. During age 761, Salza gets a notification from Earth. The soldier named Toby is reporting that one of Frieza's Saiyans is attacking Earth. He's slowly but surely taking them out. Cooler thinks that this is Frieza's way of trying to piss him off, as there's sort of an unspoken rule between them that you don't fuck with my shit, I don't fuck with your shit. Kakarot would speak up, asking Lord Cooler if he can go to Earth and teach that Saiyan a lesson. Cooler, thinking that this would be a great way to send Frieza the message to not mess with him and his stuff, allows Kakarot to go. He just tells him to bring back the body alive, if he can, otherwise it's no big deal. So, Kakarot gets in a pod and blasts towards Earth. A day later, when Kakarot arrives on Earth, he uses the scouter to try to find the Saiyan. He does notice a power level of 1500 fighting power levels around 600. When he arrives, he sees Raditz facing off against some humans and some robots. So he decides to sit back and watch. But as Kakarot is starting to somewhat enjoy the fight, Master Roshi hits Raditz with the Mofubo while he was busy fighting off Tien and Krillin. Roshi manages to get Raditz in the bottle and seal him away. The fighters then start to celebrate their win, but soon after Chi-Chi points out that the bottle is missing. On top of a building, Kakarot stands there holding the bottle, inspecting it. He then looks down at the humans, saying, "Hey, that's a really cool technique. Mind telling me how it works?" Once Kakarot jumps down from the building, Roshi gets a good look at his face and hair, and recognizes him as the child that nearly killed him many years ago. Kakarot says he doesn't remember much from back then, but he does remember the old man. He let him go all those years ago because this human was the only one that was close to actually rivaling his power. He wanted to see if the old man would get stronger. While it looks like the old man did get stronger, the change is barely noticeable. All the humans try to attack Kakarot, but they literally don't do anything to him. They're like mosquitoes trying to break down a brick wall. With one finger blast, Kakarot takes out all the robots, as he states that they're so weak it's boring. He then has an idea and opens up the bottle that Raditz was in. When Raditz gets out, he's like super confused as he has no idea what happened to him. Raditz, after shaking off this confusion, notices Kakarot and tries his whole Saiyan reveal speech. However, Kakarot tells him that he's already aware he's from a planet called Vegeta that was destroyed by Frieza. He goes on to say that he could care less about the planet, the Saiyans, or his parents. Raditz tells him that he's not a true Saiyan, and that the planet was destroyed by an asteroid, not Frieza, and he goes to attack. Kakarot just dodges his attack and gut punches him, sending him into a building. With a smirk on his face, he tells everybody, "How about this? I'll fight you using only my feet and 10% of my power. If you manage to get me to use my hands, I'll let you all live." While the humans have better techniques and teamwork than Raditz, they don't do well. Roshi even tries to do the Mofuba on Kakarot, but he misses and hits Chaozu instead. Even stuff like Tien's Tri-Beam or Krillin and Yamcha's Kamehamehas, they don't do anything to him. Raditz tries his attacks like the Double Sunday and the Shining Friday, but they don't do anything. Even with these handicaps of him just using his feet and only 10% of his power, he still beats them all down pretty easily. Finally, growing tired of playing with his food, he decides to end the fight. Kakarot rips off Tien's arm and Yamcha's leg. He kicks Krillin's head off and blasts a hole through Roshi and the Ox King. Chaozu tries to blow himself up against Kakarot, but he manages to take Chaozu off. But as Chaozu's about to blow himself up, Kakarot chucks him towards Chi-Chi and they both end up dying. Kakarot then turns his attention to Raditz and Gohan, who he grabs by the neck. Raditz would once again try to appeal to Kakarot's Saiyan side, being like, "Oh, if we Saiyans team up, we could be unstoppable." Kakarot Muse just says, "You know what? I'm glad that Frieza destroyed Planet Vegeta, and the Saiyans along with it." He then turns to Gohan and says, "I don't know who you are, but no hard feelings," as he proceeds to snap his neck too. Before he leaves, Kakarot notices a Namekian standing among the bodies. But before he can question him, he and the human bodies vanish, which confuses him and prompts him to ask what the hell is a Namekian doing all the way out here. But he's still got a job to do, so he picks up Raditz's body and heads back to the ship. When he arrives back with Cooler, he shows him that the Saiyan has been disposed of. Cooler then thanks him for a job well done, but it's time to go meet up with my little brother. Frieza tries to start off the meeting by saying, "Oh, how long it's been since we've seen each other face to face." Cooler just tells him to cut the crap and tell him why he sent one of his monkeys to his planet. As Kakarot throws Raditz's dead body between them, Frieza replies that he didn't send him there. This monkey must have gone there on his own accord. You know how these monkeys are. Cooler then tells Frieza to keep his soldiers under better control, or else he's gonna have to show him a thing or two. Frieza gives Kakarot a look, almost as if he's seen the Saiyan before. After Cooler and the squadron leave, Dodoria brings up to Frieza the fact that Saiyan looks so much like Bardock. Frieza says it looks like we may have missed a Saiyan, and we need to keep a closer eye on our own Saiyans. We may even need to make them stronger. He tells Dodoria and Zarbon to gather up the Ginyu Force and the 2 remaining Saiyans. After Cooler's ship blasts off, Kakarot suggests a new planet that they can take over. You got the idea from going to Earth. They can go visit the homeworld of the Namekians, Planet Namek. And that's where we're going to be leaving it off for now. So if this does well enough, it will get a part 2. I do have some vague ideas of where to take a part 2 if it ever does get a part 2. And if you guys ever want a more detailed explanation of what happens on Earth, I'll do a part 1.5 if you guys do want that. Anyway, since this is the end of the video, remember to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys later.